Chapter 9. Forrester Hill was a large complex of hospital buildings. It was interspersed by roads, cars and buses, car parks, bus stops, gardens, and a children's playground. There was the medical school where Tariq had trained and sat exams. There was the maternity hospital where Summer had had Amir. There was casualty where Tariq had died on a sunny day and she had sat waiting for someone to come from the mosque, while Amir roamed the corridors, touching everything, playing with the fire extinguisher, until she picked him up, shook him, and hissed, "I wish it was you instead. You're so easily replaceable." But he had wriggled away from her, too young to understand, too good-natured to be disturbed by her anger. Only she was left with guilt, dirty like metal. Summer pushed her way to the hospital. It felt like that, even though she sat in the warm bus, not walking, not running, not exerting herself. She must not think of the last time she had come here. It had been different. It was daylight then, summer, and she had come wearing sandals, pushing Amir in his pushchair. Now she was coming by bus, alone, and it was winter darkness outside the bus, freezing cold. Why was she going to see Ray? If he was asleep, would she just sit on a chair, listen to him snore? If he was very ill, would he not be irritated by her presence, that she was seeing him like that, intruding on something private? What if he looked at her in a surprised way, his eyes asking, "What are you doing here?" She should go back home. She should get off the bus at the next bus stop, cross the road, and catch another bus going in the opposite direction. To encourage herself, she used cunning ruses. "You can go to him another day," she told herself. "When he is more recovered, maybe Yasmin could come with you, or even Diane." Somehow she doubted that. The other students then, the Algerian lady, then it would look more respectable, people from work coming to see him. It would seem natural then. She said to herself, "There's nothing wrong with admitting that you have acted rashly in coming out like this to see him. It is actually wiser to admit a mistake and retract than to stubbornly go on. So at the next bus stop, get out, stand up now, and walk to the door so that when the door opens you can get out straight away." But bus stop after bus stop came and went, and she continued sitting, pushing her way up to Forrester Hill. The bus stopped in front of the hospital. The automatic doors swished open. She was so slow getting up from her seat that the doors started to close as she passed through them. They hit her on her shoulder, swung back open again, and the bus driver scowled at her through his rear mirror, muttered under his breath. A glass door to push in order to get inside the building. The heaviest glass door in the world. Her shoulder felt bruised. There was a gift shop in the foyer, stuffed toys, flowers, a shop which sold newspapers and sweets, lifts to the different wards. She suddenly realized that she did not know which ward Ray was in. This realization came as a relief. If she could not find him, then it would be a sign that she should not have come, and she would go away, convinced. If she found his ward, she would ask if he was well enough for visitors. If not, she would go away without leaving her name. If he was asleep, she would go away before he woke up. She felt better now. She had sorted everything out. "I want to visit someone, but I don't know which ward they're in," she said to the nurse at the reception. The nurse asked her questions. A man or a woman? What did he have? When was he admitted? His name? She checked what looked like computer printouts and gave Summer a ward number. "Is he well enough for visitors?" Wide eyes. "You will have to ask the ward itself. They'll tell you." An impatient smile. Many people were waiting for the lifts. Near the lifts was a Christmas tree and a cafe busy with people drinking and eating. Others sat on settees, chatting and reading newspapers. The bustle reminded Summer of airports. It was hard to believe that people suffered within these walls. At the ward, she gave his name to the nurse. The nurse had a young, pretty face, clear blue eyes. She was so thin that her stomach, held in by the wide red belt of her uniform, looked concave. There he is, fifth bed on the right. The nurse pointed her finger down the ward, but Summer did not look to where she was pointing. Is he well enough for visitors? Oh, yes, he's fine. Surprise in the eyes of the nurse. The nurse hovered a little, and Summer had to start walking away from that look of surprise. Head down, eyes down, gray linoleum, count the beds by counting their legs. 1, 2, 3. She looked up and her eyes took in the whole ward. Straight in front of her, a Christmas tree near a large window, a row of beds either side of a long aisle. Some of the beds had green curtains around them, their occupants hidden away. The rest was a sea of ill men on beds with white sheets, their faces blurred together, indistinguishable. She saw him before he saw her. He was sitting up, not connected to machines or drips. He looked so strikingly familiar that she caught her breath. Here he was, someone that she knew from somewhere else. She knew him better than anyone else here did. She knew him separately from this place. Here he was, someone that was connected to her. So that the first words she said to him did not belong to the rational world. Ray, why did they bring you here? He said her name, then his voice got louder. I'm so pleased to see you. It's great to see you. He kept repeating himself, and his voice was so loud that she became embarrassed, imagining that the word was shifting, its people turning and looking at them. She wanted to bend down and put her arms around him, say to him, "Lower your voice, you're speaking too loudly." Instead, she put her hands in her pockets and sat on the chair that was next to his bed. He looked older than she remembered, or maybe she was noticing only now that there was a white in his hair, greasy today, longer than usual, shine on the skin of his forehead and nose. He was wearing gray pajamas, crumpled and with one of the buttons missing, a black t-shirt underneath. He smiled at her, his lips almost blue, and there was a darkness too on his cheeks, the tips of his fingers. He looked happy to see her. She said, "Your voice is very loud," and looked anxiously across at his neighbor. He was an elderly man asleep on his side facing them. He looked like he wore false teeth when he wasn't sleeping. On the other side of Ray was a bed with a green curtain wrapped around it. Across the aisle, a young woman was reading a newspaper. Ray did not answer, only smiled and kept looking at her. She looked away. Welcoming her made him wheezy. He coughed, one small cough, but it was a horrible sound, worse than any time she had heard him cough before. "What happened? Tell me." He shook his head and said, short of breath, "In a while. You talk." She did not know what to say, what to start talking about. If he would not look at her, it would be so easy to talk. "Do you want to know how I found out that you were in the hospital?" "Yes." She told him, at the same time twisting the strap of her handbag, which was on her lap, as if she was ready to get up and leave at any moment. Her handbag reminded her of her aunt's letter, and she became conscious of it, lying unopened inside her bag. "You look nice," he said. This was sudden and made her feel shy. She said, "It's my new coat. I got it half price at the sale." He laughed. His laugh trailed off into another cough. He pressed his thumb against his chest, grimaced, and said, "This hurts." She thought, I must not say anything that could make him laugh. Laughing makes him cough. They were quiet, neither of them speaking. Time passed. She felt like she had traveled miles to get here, struggled, pushed her way through fog and quicksand. Now that she had arrived, she felt settled, her heart and mind settled. no swishing thoughts. Everything was here now, filling up the silent time, minute after minute, and the smell of disinfectant, hospital sounds, footsteps, trolleys, people's voices, the ringing of a telephone far away, a telephone that had nothing to do with them. She stopped twisting the strap of her handbag. She smiled at him and looked away. It was not a dream. Her eyes and ears were calm, missing nothing. "What is that on your hand?" she asked. He had a plaster on the back of his left hand. "I've been getting amoxicillin through an intravenous drip, but from tomorrow I'll be getting it as pills to swallow." He seemed more able to talk now, and he told her how his chest had got worse in the last few days, how the drive from Stirling to Aberdeen had been a nightmare ending in the biggest asthma attack he had ever had. "I drove straight to the GP and he referred me here. I haven't even got home yet. I still have all my things with me." "You should have seen a doctor in Stirling. You shouldn't have driven back if you were feeling so ill." He didn't answer her and instead said, "I just remembered I have something for you, right here with me, now." He got up from the bed slowly. She saw that he was wearing socks, odd colors, one navy and one black. He opened it and started to pull out from it clothes, what looked like his laundry, a jumble of books and tapes. "I'm usually more organized than this," he said. Summer had had to bite her lips to stop herself from offering to take his laundry home with his clothes for him. She wanted to fold them, smooth them out, align the sleeves together, sort them into piles. "Can I look at your tapes? Is this what you listen to in the car?" He nodded and went on searching his suitcase. She recognized some of his tapes: Bob Marley's Survival, Babylon by Bus, Uprising. He drove around Scotland listening to reggae, the call for Africa to unite, Ambush in the Night, Will Be Forever Loving Jah. The words came back to her with their tunes. "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds." Where had she heard these songs? Back home in the petrol queues of Souk too, from the radio of a Toyota pickup, the cars bumper to bumper, the whole queue like a segmented snake burning under the sun. The smell from the bakery mixed with the smell of oil and petrol fumes, fume addicts squatting near the fuming pumps, beggars leaning on the cars, thrusting their fingers through the windows. There were the songs, and here in this cold city Tariq bought the tapes from a shop on Union Street, for the ones back home had long ago melted in the sun. Look out at the dark rain, hope that Tariq was doing well in his exams, and teach Amir to sing. Sun is shining, the weather is sweet. She held one of the tapes in her hand, opened and closed the box. Flags of Africa on the cover, green, so many of them green, reds, blue, crescents, and stars, a torch held up high. In her own hospital room on good days, she had played the same tape, someone telling the truth. By the power of the Most High, we keep on surfacing. "I got you this from Edinburgh," Ray said. It was wrapped in a light blue paper, square-shaped, a little box. He began to put his things back into the bag, slowly but carelessly stuffing them away. She unwrapped the present, careful not to tear the paper. It was a bottle of perfume, oval-shaped, with a stopper and not an atomizer, liquid the color of amber. She had thought all the time he was looking in his bag that he was going to give her the Azhar thesis he wanted her to translate. She said, "Thank you," and opened the bottle. The scent was neither fresh nor spicy, but heavy and sweet. "It smells nice," she told him, even though she knew that this was not the way to judge perfume. She should first rub it on the inside of her wrist, wait for it to settle. But she could not do that now, and looking up, She saw that he was as embarrassed as she was. He said, still kneeling on the ground, putting his bag away, "The man who sold it to me was French. He said this perfume is new. It's the best. It's come from heaven via Paris." She laughed. What a funny thing to say. From heaven via Paris. He looked tired when he stood up, sat down again on the bed. She said, "I should go now. You look tired." He shook his head. "No, please, stay. It's just that standing up suddenly made me dizzy. Stay. I want to talk to you." She folded the gift paper and put it away with the perfume inside her handbag. She took out her aunt's letter. Look what my aunt wrote as the address. Aberdeen, England. And someone at the post office went over England in red ink. "You have just won me over to your side, Summer, in my quarrel you've had with your aunt. Aberdeen, England is unforgivable." That's what they must have thought at the post office. It's a good thing they delivered it. "When I was in Cairo," he said, "I was often asked, 'Are you English? Inglesi?' And I would say, 'No.' 'Americani?' 'No.' Then they would start getting suspicious. I'd say 'Scottish,' and they'd say, 'Oh, is that where the war is?' 'Scotlandy,' she said. 'You should say, أنا اسكتلندي مش إيرلندي.' Tell me before I forget," he said. "What does shirk al-asbab mean? I know that shirk means polytheism." Asbab or causes, intermediaries. So shirk al-asbab means the polytheism of intermediaries. For example, to believe in nature, to elevate nature, which is only an intermediary, and set it up as a kind of partner to God. Where did you come across that? Farid. Is he the one you met in Stirling? Yes, he's going to be coming to Aberdeen later this month to teach part of my course. You'll meet him then. I spoke to him about you. She wondered why he had spoken about her, how he put her into words. Where is he from originally? He came from Lebanon, but he's originally a Palestinian from Gaza. He was a journalist and he was imprisoned by the Israelis for some time. They gave him a rough time, a real rough time. She said, "Have you been to Gaza or Lebanon?" "No." My aunt went to Beirut long ago, before all the troubles. She bought me so many things. Her aunt had brought her a t-shirt with a round yellow smiling face, a doll that could walk. I forgot I haven't even opened her letter. She wanted to read the letter now so that his presence could cushion the inevitable hurt. The letter was brief, with an attached list of things that her aunt wanted her to bring, items from the pharmacy, paracetamol, laxatives, biscuits for diabetes. Also, Hanan had just had a baby and seemed to need the whole of mother care. Then there were things for Amir, clothes, rollerblades. Rollerblades? How do they find out about things like that? Summer put the list of orders back into the envelope. It was too daunting. Her aunt must imagine that she was making millions, an expatriate like those who found jobs in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf. The letter itself was breezy. "I'm so proud that you got this job to go to Egypt. Wonderful that they are going to pay for your ticket. This is the right thing, as I have said before, to concentrate on your career and your son. It will be good for him to be in England with you. For his good education. So many envy you." This was followed by a torrent of complaints about life in Khartoum and how awful Summer would find it after being away for so long. Then the last lines, "I am so glad you seem to have got rid of this ridiculous idea of getting married again. When you see Amir, how lovable he is, you will not have the hard hearts to be so selfish and bring him a stepfather, some stranger who will not treat him well. Of course, it doesn't matter where you are. No one is seeing you there, but when you come, it would be better not to wear so much color. You know how people get ideas. You don't need to get everything that Hanan has asked for. She wants too much as usual, but my pharmacy things, be sure to bring them. Summer smiled weakly at Ray. She wanted to speak but couldn't. So, what is the news? He said. My aunt thinks that Amir would like rollerblades. He said that Mari had rollerblades and went on to talk about children's toys. She listened to his voice but not to what he was saying. My aunt thinks that after living here for so long, I will hate it when I go back to Khartoum. She thinks I will see everything as ugly and backward. I don't think you will see everything as ugly and backward. What do you think? I don't know. Your aunt doesn't know you, he said. She's known me for most of my life. She pretended that she did not agree with him while inside her she was thrilled by what he had said. She had wanted him to cushion the hurt from the letter, and he had done more than that, effortlessly, easily as if by magic. What were you going to tell me before? She said. When? When you told me to stay? Yes, I was going to tell you about Farid. I started to, but I didn't go on. I've known him for years now. We've written some papers together. Every once in a while, he would suddenly have this outburst. Why haven't I accepted Islam? How can I study it, know it, and still not see that it's the truth? And wasn't I afraid when the time comes, when I die and I will be asked? Wasn't I afraid that I would not have an excuse? I would not be able to plead ignorance? Anyway, he goes through all this with me every once in a while. Summer winced at hearing her own thoughts crudely put by someone else. She looked at Ray questioningly, wary. Why was he telling her all this? Well, I was just wondering. He looked away. I was wondering why you don't say things like that. She struggled to find an answer. She could say so many things, things that would be truthful and yet not truthful at the same time. She said, Yasmin once told me that it annoys you when Muslims expect you to convert just because you know so much about Islam. And you are afraid of annoying me? Yes. He said, the arrogance annoys me. Then he was silent like someone who had more to say but was choosing not to speak. Is Farid very arrogant then? No. I would not describe him as arrogant. The reason he goes on is that I view the Quran as a sacred text, as the word of God. It would be impossible in the kind of work I'm doing, in the issues I'm addressing, for me to do otherwise but accept Muslims' own vision of the Quran, what they say about it. To Farid, though, this is tantamount to accepting Islam, and so he can't understand it when I say I'm not a Muslim. Summer couldn't understand it either. Hesitantly, she said, I think I agree with your friend. Why? She wanted to say, because unless you become a Muslim, we will not be able to get married. We will not be together, and I will be miserable and alone. But she said, it would be good for you. It will make you stronger. He was quiet, and she thought, I have heard him now. I have said the wrong thing. A visitor arrived for the elderly man in the next bed, his wife. She nodded at Ray, straightened the blanket that covered her sleeping husband, sat down, and after taking out her glasses from her bag, started reading a book. Someone had switched on the television that was perched up on the wall at the far end of the ward. Horse racing, the sound of galloping hoofs, the voice of the commentator. Some of these horses have Arab names, Ray said. They spoke about the names of horses, Summer watching his face, making sure that she had not hurt him by what she had said. She had been given the chance to say something intelligent about Islam and she had lost it. She could have said things about truth, or eternal relevance or about distinguishing faith from cultural traditions. Instead, she had said something personal. It will make you stronger. Words that carried criticism. She despised herself. I have to go now. It looks like you're going to have dinner. The young nurse was pushing a trolley down the aisle, handing out trays. The ward was filling up with the smell of cooked vegetables. Summer stood up. I'm sorry I made you tired. I stayed too long. No, he said. You of all people could never make me tired. She smiled, but she was still a little anxious. I can say the wrong things. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. In a rush, she said, I feel so bad that when we were speaking on the telephone, I didn't guess that you were so ill. I thought it was just flu. I should have known. But I myself didn't know. I thought it was just a chest infection. I get them frequently. I must admit I got a scare this time, breathing in and the air just wouldn't get through. I thought that's it. My car's been called. Downstairs, you were wrong. She forgot that a few minutes ago she had despised herself. Downstairs in the hospital foyer there were mirrors along one wall. Her eyes were a little pink, but their lids were as if rimmed by kohl, and there was the color on her lips and cheekbones as if she was wearing makeup. She carried in her handbag a small bottle sold by a man in Edinburgh who told his customers that the perfume had come all the way from heaven via Paris.